coming into myself. It's hard to say. Anyways, that's a little side tangent. Yeah, the idea of existing for eternity doesn't sound good to me, but what I will say is I consider myself a nihilist, and you know, I struggle with nihilism sometimes. I go back and forth. Sometimes I'm super at peace with it. Sometimes I'm like sweating bullets and like it makes me spiral. But I'm not a nihilist because it sounds good. I'm a nihilist because I don't think we have proof for anything else. I'm just not going to assume there's anything after this. To me, it's the most logical to just be like, we don't have proof for anything else, so I'm just going to assume that we cease to exist. But if I'm being honest, living for eternity and not existing anymore, they sound about equally as scary to me. Again, it's just like the one I think is more likely, and I would rather no longer exist than be in the like Christian description of heaven, though. Even though, again, the thought of existing and not existing scare me about the same. Also, side note, I don't talk about nihilism a lot because I find myself, if I'm being honest, I find myself getting frustrated because when I view nihilism, I don't view it as positive or negative. I just view it as neutral. Like, that's it. I know people put their own emotions on it, but yeah, I just don't view it as positive or negative. And a lot of people, when I talk about this, who are in the deconstruction space or ex-Christians or whatever, they're like, why don't you just become like absurdist? Why don't you just join absurdism, which is basically saying, you know, I don't think anything has inherent meaning, so I'm just gonna live this life to the fullest or whatever and like have the best time I can, whatever, you know, that kind of definition. I get frustrated when people say that because I can't decide that on a whim. I can't just be like, yeah, I'm gonna make the best out of it now and like not care about, like, that's not how my brain works. I try to do that, but again, that's me just existing in nihilism where I'm just very realistic about it. It like comes and goes in waves. It's not this straightforward thing. And especially if you're someone who does struggle with stuff, like it could be anything, again, physically, mentally, emotionally, and someone just tells you, why aren't you just an absurdist? It's like, I don't know, maybe because I can't just force my brain to do that, you know? And like, again, I'm gonna try, and I know people are good intentioned when they say that to me, but it just, I don't know, there's something about that frustrates me because, like I said, I don't think nihilism is positive or negative, and I don't really like when people always say it's a negative thing because it's not. It's just how you feel about it. And then number two, again, I can't just choose on a whim to be like, yep, I'm only gonna be an absurdist now. Like, I don't think that's how it works personally. But honestly, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with nihilism being a journey. I'm okay with it being positive some days, negative other days, and I've always been very honest about that because, again, I do feel like I'm a pretty realistic person, and I don't need to fake anything, if I'm being honest. I don't feel like I need to fake anything. Like, I'm so happy that nihilism is what's gonna happen. I don't always feel that way. Like I said, I don't want to go the Christian description of heaven either, but sometimes the idea of not existing anymore freaks me out, and I think that's normal. Also, like the dying process, I'm obviously gonna be freaked out by that, and that's also normal. Also, sometimes I get extreme FOMO because I want to know what happens. I want to know how we progress as a society or don't progress. I want to know what happens when the sun finally swallows us up. I want to know if we make it to a different planet or what happens. So sometimes I get extreme FOMO and I don't like that either, but anyways.
I think actually, let me let you go. What are your thoughts?
I bet. So she spoke about the fear of existing forever versus the fear of not existing. And also going further by saying she would rather cease to exist than to live forever in heaven. Now, I mean, now that, you know, that's her opinion. I can't fault her for her opinion. My opinion, I don't think, I like living. So I would rather exist in heaven, but I would rather not exist than be in what the Bible describes as hell.
Yeah.
That's the only thing for me when it comes to not existing. I actually, I would rather not. I'd rather exist forever in heaven where things are presumed to be good. I'd like a new level, whatever.
Yeah.
But
Level up type
you
thing.
feel me? When she says it's more logical to believe nothing happens after death due to the lack of evidence, I think it's not. I actually disagree 100%. To me, it's more logical to believe that energy is transferred and it never ceases.
It's kind of like Full Metal Alchemist.
Exactly. Like, I mean, these ideas don't come out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere.
You feel me? So that even in the world, if you're not looking at it from a biblical standpoint, there's arguments that science and school science kind of refutes that statement that there's nothing after death. You can't just cease to exist. If you're a form of energy, it's known that energy is transferred until stopped by another force of energy in a way. I guess I don't know the exact terminology, but
And this is kind of like to tie everything together when it comes to the faith as a whole. And of course, if you remember what you have, you can bring it up. And this is something that my pastor at my church actually mentioned, which is pretty clear. For those that are unsure about the faith, it's either going to be one or two things. You either believe that there's a heaven and hell, or you don't believe there's a heaven and hell. If you're right, then you do what it is, that you want. But if you're wrong, automatic rip, you're going to hell. Just automatic rip. So it's kind of like a decisions type thing. You're choosing, whether you're going to choose to follow the faith or not follow the faith. Could it be simply because of the fact of, deciding to go to heaven or hell? Possibly. I mean, heck, that's what really got me to becoming a Christian myself, was because of a play that I saw depicting what heaven and hell would look like, or what would happen at the gates, and determining who would go to heaven and who would go to hell. And it was specific that saying, if you didn't follow Christ, and it didn't matter how good of a person you were going to go to hell. Ooh, excuse me. So in that same sense, kind of in the mindset that she has, the whole nihilism and like there's not being nothing, it seems like there's two bads and one good. Just like what you were saying, it's either if there's nothing and you're terrified of that, then that's bad. And if we're going to the heaven and hell side, there's a heaven, which is good. There's a hell, which is bad. So it's like, on one hand, you have a good and a bad. I would think that you would rather choose good. And on the other hand, there's nothing, which is bad. So I would think that you wouldn't want that to happen anyways. So if we're trying to keep things on a positive outlook on life, I would assume that one would rather choose the idea to go to heaven, as I did, than as opposed to going to hell, or just living day to day thinking that when we die, there's going to be absolutely nothing. Now, to me, and it could be because of based on where I am spiritually, the idea of there just being nothing when I die doesn't bother me too much. So I think a lot of it has to deal with like a self-consciousness, or like, I don't know, some type of psychological term that one kind of is in fear of the unknown type thing. That's probably really what it is. But it's like, how can we really know aside from the scriptures that we've been given that talks about the heaven? I mean, heck, it seems like even the Jews didn't even think that there was a heaven. So that's even interesting in and of itself. So that goes back to the whole point of, with the faith, we understand the sacrifice that is needed for us to be given our stamp, be given our golden ticket to heaven, and that's through Jesus Christ. This stamp, this ticket is available for anybody. They just have to receive it. Anybody, regardless of your background, regardless of what you've done in the past, regardless of how you feel currently, it's available for anybody. The caveat to that, which I think a lot of people don't really talk about is that there should be a shift in your life if you truly believe. And I think that's what makes the difference between those that claim the faith versus those that actually walk in the faith. They can say, yeah, I'm Christian, but their life doesn't show it because they know of God, but they haven't submitted to it, thus making that 180 from the sinful nature from the life that they had to worship, to be obedient, instead just still doing their day-to-days. Whereas to those that are truly of the faith, there will be a reconditioning of their heart and of their mind, as it says in Romans. And you'll see it. There'll be a beacon of light. You'll see the change. You'll be able to, you'll see the fruit that they'll bear. But not only that, their view on life shifts to where they may not be afraid of death anymore. Death was a thing that I was afraid of, but I'm no longer afraid of death. Their outlook on life, their day-to-days, and how they walk and how they do things, the things that were a worry of them before, isn't a worry anymore. Because at the end of the day, when I die, my faith tells me that I'm going to heaven. I have nothing more to fear. I'm just here to enjoy the rest of the ride, type situation, and try to bring other people along with me. So that's kind of the idea, and my take when it comes to her stance on that. And it may sound cliche, but at the end of the day, there really isn't much more to it. The faith isn't that complicated, and we have the instructions and the guidance to it. Does it require research? Yeah. Does it require reading? Yeah. A lot of people don't like to read, which is fair, because I didn't. I'll admit, when I was growing up in the faith, I didn't read the Bible as often as I do now. Which would make sense why a lot of decisions that are made in my ideologies were the way that they were before, and they've changed now. But it takes reading the scriptures. Hold on, where's my thingy? Here we go.
Read the scriptures for yourself. Read.
It's a must. It's a must if we're going to claim the faith, and if we're going to learn more and have a better understanding of the faith, to read the scriptures, but also to seek that relationship with God and seek relationships with other people here, because that's what we're called to do. What you got? You got anything else?
It's a good breakdown. I remember the point I was gonna make was about how it was kind of off topic now I'm thinking about it, but even
That's cool.
if you believe in nothing, it's still a belief. So you can't say you
still a
believe
belief.
in nothing. Yeah. And that in turn makes it just as equal to anyone else's belief about there being something. So now we're on the same playing field. You can't say you're smarter than me or better, because if you don't even have the evidence that there's nothing after death, you can't say you do because you haven't died.
Yep.
That puts us at the same game now.
Same game. We in the same ballpark.
And you feel me? And if that's the game, the odds still tip in the favor of, like you were saying, the two bads, one good. If there is nothing, then if you fear not existing, then that's a bad. But if there is something, there's heaven and hell. And if you didn't believe that, then you're automatically going
off rip. And it's a crazy, and it does seem like it's a scare tactic. But unfortunately, it's the truth at the end of the day, because there's no other way around it. You either accept Jesus and truly search him out, because it's one thing to say, oh yeah, I'm a Christian, I believe. It's another thing to worship and be obedient. And I think that's kind of where that kind of is like, yeah, now you stamped, now you got that ticket type thing, because you're actually about it as opposed to just saying it. That's like saying, oh, I'm sorry. But are you really sorry though? Or are you just going to do what you did again, and you're just saying sorry so that you can kind of get out of the situation that you're in? So yeah, man.
I'll say this. It's like a question. it begs the question, that point, right? If what it takes for us to know if somebody is really truly in belief and in alignment with what God is, right, is by their fruits and how they act later on in life.
Yep.
How do we know someone's salvation if they've been doing bad all their life, now they got hit with something dire that will end their lives in the next hour, and they accept Jesus right there, and then they pass away after catching 100 bodies, kill streak, and now people are upset at Christians because all he had to do was
just say, I accept Jesus as my savior.
Right. And that's one thing that like atheists and sadists or people who denounce Christianity, they use that to like as an attack, right? On the whole structure. And if you don't have obviously the proper answer, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So what would you say to that?
I would say that that's a very good question. I like that. I wasn't expecting that at all. I would say that when it comes to our relationship with God, when it comes to our relationship with Christ, it imitates our relationships when it comes to a marriage. So, likewise, how can you really tell if somebody's really gonna go to heaven, since we have no proof? We have nobody that come back and be like, oh yeah, Toto Bisha, he's in heaven, or cousin, Frederick's son, he's in heaven type stuff. We have nobody that can go and verify who went and who isn't. I think that's when it really boils down to only you and God knows. Those are the only two that can truly say that. And of course, the way that we can see that is, like you said, if these individuals are actually bearing fruit. If we see the shift in their mindset, one can say, like you said, then one can say that they're a Christian, that they've accepted Jesus, but then going out still doing the same thing that they're doing, that they were doing previously, and still in that same lifestyle. We can say that. We can question, are they really saved because they're still doing the same thing? There's absolutely zero change. Another thing that my pastor said, which is interesting, is that you can see all these other churches be like, oh yeah, we have 100 people that accepted Jesus as their savior. And then it's like, how can you tell if they've truly accepted Jesus? See where they're at in 6 months. See where their posture is. See where their life is. Has anything changed? Are they still doing the same thing? If they're still doing the same thing, there's a good chance off of speculation that they may not have truly received their gift. Otherwise, we would see the change, because we're all sinful and there's things that we can all switch around for the faith, as the faith calls us to do. Even if you were a good person initially, there's something that could be changed around for the betterment of the kingdom. Now, when it comes to, like you were saying, the person that did so many bad things and then seconds before they die, they say they accepted Jesus, I think it really, again, comes down to the posture and really understanding the gift that was given to you. And I think when it gets to that moment, it becomes true whether you've accepted Jesus or not. For me personally, I felt the change. Interesting fact. So when I did accept Jesus, before I accepted Jesus, I was a thief. Me and my cousin, we were stealing from anybody and anybody just to get the stuff that we wanted, because, living in New Jersey, parents, bad spending, all that stuff. I never really got the things that I really asked for all the time. So how did I get the stuff? I stole. When I accepted Jesus, it was automatic. I automatically stopped stealing, because I already knew that was something that I was being obedient. That was a clear commandment that I shouldn't be doing. So I stopped doing it. And I think, and that was in that moment when I accepted Jesus. I'm like, all right, I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't do that. I know I'm not supposed to do it, so I don't do it. going back to your question, for the person that's literally about to die, I think there's that posture, that there's that mind switch that happens at that second, whether it's genuine or not. We could say the same thing going back into the relationship part that I like to use when let's say if a guy has been unfaithful, wife catches him, he says, "I'm sorry. It was a mistake." Is he truly sorry? Because if he's truly sorry, he wouldn't do it again. How would the wife know? Maybe homie's just tried to do a better job at being secretive and making sure that he doesn't get caught again. We've seen that happen how many times? But those that are true, you would see the shift in his life. You would see that he's not doing the stuff anymore. And really, it's between him, whoever he's messing around with, that would really know, or lack thereof, that would really know that he's not doing that thing anymore. So that's kind of where I would go, what I would say in regards to that thought. Because like you say, yeah, a lot of atheists, they do harbor on that when it comes to the idea of somebody being saved and going to heaven right before they died after they did XYZ stuff in the world. And yeah, it does sound crazy, but if they've really come to that moment of understanding, yo, what I've been doing was absolute trash, and this is the moment where I can make up for it, I thoroughly believe that our God is that gracious to even those that has been doing terrible their whole lives can still be redeemed at the very last second. Yeah.
That goes in line with what my answer would have been, pretty much. My answer was the same way you started. It's between him, that person, and God. It was really all up to God, because you can't trick God. You know what I'm saying?
Can't.
He knows all things, because obviously he created, like I said earlier. And he's omnipresent, so he's present. He can also be present in your mental state and how you feel. And he could be present in the future and the potential future that he doesn't allow to happen. He's present in all of that. So he would know whether or not you would have changed for real at the last second, right? Furthermore, though, when you ponder on the fact as of ex-Christian, when you ponder on the fact that somebody that bad could, even if they did change that last minute, still go to heaven and not pay for all the stuff he did, that's controversial, because they didn't, they didn't deserve that to them. And it's like, to that, God knows better still.
Yeah.
And it's nobody's decision whether or not to condemn somebody, or
decide their salvation.
To decide their salvation or damnation. It's not in our power. It's not our right whatsoever, even though we feel like it is, with this whole idea of like, our opinions in the court system too, deciding whether or not we're given a death penalty for something, like, because of how we socially view the court system and how they punish certain people for certain crimes. I feel like we are closer to defining somebody's fate.
We're judges.
Yeah, than we should be. In all reality, like, yeah, maybe God gave us the power. When I say us, I mean humans who can become judges. They give us the power for us to dictate the living